Is President Obama setting a dangerous precedent by using executive action to make changes on Obamacare? If a Republican takes the White House in 2016, analysts argued that executive action could be used to dismantle the law. Georgia Congressman Phil Gingrich is the co-chair of the American Republican Doctors Caucus. How are you, sir? And good morning to you in Atlanta.
Good morning, Bill.
You've looked at this topic. Are the analysts right that a new president, by way of executive order, could take apart the law?
They're absolutely right. I mean, when you look back through past presidencies, other presidents have used executive order, some even more than President Obama, but not on massive things like he's doing. And I think the American people understand the definition of separation of powers. They understand the Constitution. And yes, a future president could do that. But I'm not recommending it because I don't think the American people want that. They want Congress to make the law, and they want the president to enforce the law, not to interpret it and not to change it.
All right, and on that point, Xavier Becerra was a Democrat from California. Here's what he told Chris Wallace about dealing with Congress now.
The president is not trying to rewrite. The president has never said, I'm going to go it alone. The president has said, I'm going to work with Congress. But where Congress decides not to act, remember, this is perhaps the greatest do-nothing Congress we've seen.
What do you think of that, sir?
Well, I think he's flat wrong, absolutely wrong about that. The president is going to work with Congress. If Congress says no, and we have the legislative and the constitutional authority to do that, to say yes or no, and if that doesn't please him, then he's going to go around us with his phone and his pen. His phone is to be used to work with us, and his pen is to be used to sign into law legislation that we pass or amend. So this is totally wrong. The American people know it, both Democrats and Republicans, and they're not going to stand for it.
If that's the case, why not bring some legal case, or why has that not happened?
Well, a letter has been written, and I'm part of that letter. I don't know how many members, maybe 30 members of Congress have written a letter to the president challenging just this very issue. And of course, there are things that we can do. You look at it from the policy standpoint, whether or not to impeach the president. I had so many constituents say to me, Phil, Congressman, why don't y'all just impeach him? But, I mean, there are more things to consider. But I promise you, when we get a Republican president in 2016, we're going to go back to regular order. We're going to control the House and the Senate, and things are going to be done through the committee process because that's the way it should be done. Ask any 8th grader. They'll tell you how it should be done.
Yeah, you know, you're a doctor also. You're part of the Doctors Caucus. Just in the minute I have left here, give me a sense about how this law is being enacted and how it's rolling out. Because what the president would argue is that, you know, millions of people are now seeing the benefits of it. If they are, where do you find that?
Bill, millions, 3 million, and it was predicted at this point in time it'd be 7 million. And the president, of course, has made all these changes, I think 18 to date, the ones he wants to change. But how about the poor working stiff, that the middle class American, or the young person who is not 26 and on their parents' policy anymore, they're 27 and they've got a job and they're not eligible for any subsidy, and yet he's not going to delay that fine, that mandate, that tax, whatever John Roberts and the Supreme Court happened to call it. I think this is just absolutely, totally wrong. And the doctors and the hospitals, and not just them, but the small business men and women, you know, they don't know what to do. There's
a lot of
indecision.
No idea. You're right about that.
It's so much indecision.
Listen, I'm out of time, but many are starting to argue that the individual mandate could be delayed as well. It's just a question of when. But we'll wait on that. Phil Gingrich, thank you for your time. The Republican out of Georgia, back with us today from Atlanta. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.